Many businesses operating in Vietnam rely on non-disclosure agreements to protect sensitive information. The document is signed, filed, and often forgotten, until a problem arises. When confidential information is disclosed or misused, companies turn to their NDA expecting legal protection. But in many cases, they discover that the agreement is difficult to enforce under Vietnamese law. The issue is not the absence of an NDA, it is the way the NDA is drafted. An enforceable NDA in Vietnam is not simply a signed contract. It is an agreement that can be recognized by authorities, supported by evidence, and capable of producing legal consequences in case of breach. This means the contract must align with Vietnamese legal principles, clearly define obligations, and provide a workable mechanism for enforcement. Without these elements, even a well-intentioned agreement may fail in practice. The foundation of any NDA is the definition of confidential information. Many agreements use broad language such as, all information related to the business. While this may seem comprehensive, it can create ambiguity. In Vietnam, enforceability often depends on clarity. Confidential information should be specifically defined, categorized, and where possible, identifiable. This may include technical data, financial records, customer information, trade secrets, and proprietary processes. The more precise the definition, the easier it is to prove a breach. An effective NDA should not only define what information is protected, but also how it can be used. The agreement should clearly state the purpose of disclosure. For example, whether the information is shared for evaluating a business opportunity, executing a joint venture, or performing specific job responsibilities. By limiting the use of information to a defined purpose, you create a clearer legal boundary. Any use beyond that purpose can then be identified as a breach. Duration is another critical factor. Some NDAs attempt to impose indefinite confidentiality obligations without distinction. In Vietnam, this may be challenged if it is considered unreasonable. Instead, the agreement should define a reasonable timeframe, depending on the nature of the information. For certain trade secrets, longer protection may be justified. For other types of information, a defined period may be more appropriate. The key is to align the duration with the legitimate interests being protected. An NDA without enforcement mechanisms is difficult to rely on. The agreement should include clear provisions on what happens in case of breach. This may involve compensation for damages, contractual penalties where permitted, and obligations to cease use or return confidential information. In Vietnam, proving actual damage can be challenging. Therefore, well-structured penalty clauses can play an important role in strengthening enforceability. Beyond legal definitions, an enforceable NDA should address how information is handled in practice. This includes who has access, how information is stored, and what measures are taken to maintain confidentiality. If a dispute arises, these practical elements can support your claim. They demonstrate that the information was treated as confidential and that reasonable steps were taken to protect it. An NDA should not exist in isolation. It must be aligned with the broader contractual framework, whether it is an employment contract, a joint venture agreement, or a technology transfer arrangement. Consistency across documents strengthens enforceability. Contradictions, on the other hand, can weaken your legal position. This is particularly important for foreign investors operating in Vietnam, where multiple agreements often interact. Even the best drafted NDA requires evidence to be enforced. Companies should consider how they would prove a breach. This may involve tracking access to information, maintaining records of disclosures, and implementing internal confidentiality policies. In Vietnam, enforcement is not automatic. It depends on both the quality of the agreement and the strength of the supporting evidence. One of the most common issues is the use of generic NDA templates. These templates often fail to reflect Vietnamese legal requirements or the specific context of the business. As a result, they may look comprehensive but lack practical enforceability. For foreign investors, this creates a false sense of security. A localized, tailored approach is essential. At LTS Law, we assist foreign investors and businesses in Vietnam in drafting NDAs that are both legally compliant and practically enforceable. We analyze your business model, identify key risks, and structure agreements that align with Vietnamese law and your commercial objectives. Our approach focuses on real protection, not just documentation. In any business relationship, sharing information is necessary. But before you disclose sensitive data, it is essential to ensure that your NDA can actually protect you. Because once information is shared, control becomes more difficult. Visit lts.com.vn to consult with our legal team and ensure your NDA in Vietnam is structured to protect your business effectively.